So my gift to you today is to introduce you. We don't have a lot of time, but I want you to expand your thinking about health and wellness. And we're going to do that through this organized model. So we're going to start with the physical level, then we'll move to the energy level, then the mental level, then the informational level, and then up to consciousness. So here we go. So on the physical level, as a functional medicine practitioner, one of the things that we do when we look at lab work, let's take a CBC, that's just means a complete blood chemistry. We don't look at just, oh, your numbers are in range, or they're too low, or they're too high. We actually look at them in relationship to each other. Particularly in heart health, some of the numbers that I am interested in, some of the ratios and some of the patterns, of course, are your blood lipids, something called C-reactive protein that tells us about inflammation in your body, homocysteine, fibrinogen talks about sticky blood, your LDLs, and oftentimes a patient will come in with their lab work and the doctor said it was fine, but yet when I look at it from a functional medicine perspective, I see that this client is very much at risk for developing atherosclerosis, which is a precursor to heart disease. So what can we do on the physical level? Well, I think one of the first things that we can do is certainly talk to somebody who practices functional medicine, and let's begin to address the trends before the heart attack happens or before the heart disease becomes not only symptomatic, but you end up in the hospital. I'd like to suggest to you that we're energy beings. You know, I love to play with children and we take our fingers and we rub our fingernails together and we just pause for a minute and you can feel the tingling. You can take your hands and place them on your heart and you know what? You can feel your heartbeat. We can measure heart rate. We can measure brain waves, and we do that through that second level. So how do we care for somebody on the second level? Well, we use energy. Being in nature, one of the reasons why we all love going to the mountains so much and being at the beach is because it enhances our own energetic nature. The third level, we call that the mental level. How do you actually experience that level? You experience it through your beliefs and your attitudes and thoughts. Interesting, one of the techniques I use in my practice is autonomic response testing. And it's a muscle testing procedure that we actually test for congruency in what the patient thinks versus what their body thinks. So I might have the patient say, I deserve to be well, or I can be well, or I'm worthy to be well. And using this testing, we actually get a negative response, meaning that there's some level of the body that actually is not congruent with that idea. And what we found with this approach is that if the underlying mental field is not congruent with the behaviors that you're taking, then I don't care how much fish oil you take or how much love you have in your life. Having self-love and knowing that you're worth it is going to be a key factor in having great heart health. The fourth level, we call that the informational level. You might experience that level through your dreams, through your intuition, and if you meditate or pray, you might experience it through those levels. While the lesser levels, they're certainly no less important, but on the lower levels, we might interpret them through biochemistry and Newtonian physics. But when we get up to the fourth level, we're really working at the level of quantum physics. And as you probably know, when you get up to the quantum level, the language that we use for biochemistry, it doesn't apply anymore, because at the fourth level, time doesn't exist. It's why what we call a miracle, what we perceive as a miracle, really isn't the miracle. It's just, it happened beyond what our language allows for us to even believe is possible. So the information level, think about this. If you were a fish and you were in a fish tank and somebody posed a question to the fish, "Well, do you know what water is?" And the fish said, "Well, I have absolutely no idea." Well, here's the fish that's swimming in a sea of water and doesn't even have a clue that it's there. Well, it's very much so in the informational level. Every day we're bombarded with information, and that information is either bringing us to a greater state of health or a lesser state. And it's an important level as it relates to not only us, but all the information that we've carried with us into this lifetime through our genes, through the epigenes, through our family systems. It's a real important level and something I'd love you to learn more about. And the fifth level, we call that consciousness. Well, there's a lot of mystery about consciousness. And I think that the great creator designed it that way. So many of us can spend the rest of our life trying to understand consciousness. So for this little talk, let's just say that consciousness equals light. And frankly, from a quantum perspective, that's what our bodies are made of. Our bodies are light that we experience as matter. So wouldn't it make sense, if you want to heal a system, that you use the very system that it's made out of? You use that very same level of science. Did you know that as a chiropractor, one of the things that we do is we detect and treat something called subluxations? It's basically just a big word that means lack of light. And in my autonomic response testing, it assesses body health through how the system is expressing in something called coherent light, which is basically ordered light. Dis-ease shows up when there's lack of coherent light in our body. And consciousness is one of the ways that we can experience ourselves as light and heal ourselves. There's a lot more to know about that, but if you have a spiritual foundation and you've done any deep meditation, you might have even had a deep sense of knowingness. And what we found, even when Dr. Oz talks about heart disease, he said that he's never performed a surgery on someone who didn't have a history of some deep trauma or woundedness that wasn't healed. So, friends, heart health is more than the food that we take, the meds that we take. I find that when we really assess ourselves according to the 5 levels, we can begin to heal. If this approach to the systemic approach, this 5-level model, if you find it even interesting or you're a little bit curious about it, I love posting on the RaSaHealth Facebook page just little tidbits. We're all so busy and we don't have a lot of time to sit down and watch a 10-minute video. So check in with us there, and I love sharing what's new. Also, subscribe to our newsletter and like our blog, and I'll keep you up to date on some retreats and events and that you can share with your friends and family.